While federal parliament is still debating the future of the carbon tax, a major shakeout of Australia's energy sector is already underway. Many Australian households have taken action to lower their carbon footprint, dramatically reducing their energy consumption by switching to rooftop solar. At the same time, taxpayers are carrying the costs for recent unnecessary investments in state-owned electricity networks, and the experts warn of the potential for billions of dollars of stranded assets. Matt Peacock reports.
A revolution is now sweeping Australia's electricity industry.
This is a once-in-a-generation shift. I don't think there's been anything like this that's affected the energy market in the last 50 years.
Electricity is now becoming very like the telecommunications industry, the print media industry, in that a lot of the existing players are at risk of seeing their business models no longer appropriate.
What's driving the change is an unprecedented fall in demand for electricity that, as energy consultant Greg Houston shows, has defied official predictions.
These are the energy projections in each year, year after year, since 2006. And this red line shows the actual energy demand and how it's just fallen well short of any of the predictions.
So it kept going down, they kept predicting it going up.
That's right.
We've already seen electricity consumption in Australia decline by a total of about 13% over the past 3 or 4 years, something that would have astonished people if you'd said that 5 years ago. And to this day, electricity consumption is still declining.
5 years ago, the guesses were wildly off the mark, and there's been a widespread recognition that what we perceived was this inalienable relationship between economic growth and energy demand has been broken. It's been broken in Australia, in the United States, all across Europe. So developed economies no longer need energy growth to keep growing.
Australia's slump in demand has been driven partly by an industrial slowdown, the closure of high-energy aluminium smelters and the car industry. But half has been driven by ordinary people, many frightened by a near doubling in power prices, who've flocked to solar PV panels on their rooftops.
Everybody loves the sunshine.
The solar has gone from nothing to 8% of installed capacity in 4 years. That is an incredible uptake.
Everybody loves the sunshine.
South Australia has very high penetration levels. More than 25% of the houses have PV on the roofs, and in Queensland about 20%. So the uptake is still going up, even though feed-in tariffs and other subsidies have come off.
New South Wales is more industrial load, so it's higher, but then it falls during the weekends. Yep. And then it spikes more if there's cold weather. So it's...
For Matthew Warren, representing Australia's generators and the retailers who sell us electricity, these are scary times.
Interesting. There you go. 6 years ago, solar panels were seen as a boutique, expensive technology. Now there's more than 1 million households that have solar panels on their roofs. So nobody predicted the proliferation and the rate at which that technology would deploy.
As you can see, this is just a normal suburban home of our family of 7.
Mark Daniels lives in a typical house in Sydney's west, near Penrith, complete with pool, kids and all the mod cons. 3 months ago, he spent $12,000 installing a solar system.
So this is a 4.4 kilowatt system, and it's generating that power back into the house. So at the present time, it's doing. We're actually not using any power at all off the grid. We're fully actually at this point of time, even during a winter month, we're actually fully powering the house up.
And so what's that doing to your bill?
For the bill for that point, it's absolutely zero.
Around the corner is the thing that industry fears the most: batteries that make solar work at night.
The solar panels are actually powering the batteries.
And they're just normal, like car batteries, really, lead batteries?
Yes, they are. They're a normal 12-volt battery that we use, what we call a deep cycle.
So how far away are you from being totally off the grid?
I would need to have another battery cell for that to happen, and I would say I'm probably another 6 months away, but I could do it tomorrow if I wanted to.
And I'm told you don't even need the solar. Right now, anybody could get an array of batteries, take the power off the grid during the off-peak period, and then live off it during the peak period.
That's correct.
Coming soon are more efficient, cheaper lithium batteries as electric cars like the Tesla take off in the US.
We've had like the ultimate fear factor starting to get on the radar, that the cost of battery storage is also falling reasonably sharply as lithium batteries, but in particular, grow in importance, and that's making grid defection closer and closer to being an economically sensible proposition.
We think those cars have the right DNA to become ubiquitous in the 21st century, but it requires a critical mass and the right consumer market for them to take off.
Increased energy efficiency of home appliances is also driving down demand, according to UBS analyst David Leach.
Consumer walks into the shop, they see energy efficiency is about the second thing after price that they look at. The fridge is the most energy intensive device in the house, and there's a lot of attention. You can make money out of replacing your fridge at current electricity rates.
LED light bulbs?
Yes, LED light bulbs use 20% of the previous electricity. Our televisions, and again, energy efficient stickers. It's the consciousness that the consumers got about energy efficiency these days is just completely different to what we had 10 years ago.
So for the same thing, we're using less energy and then we're going solar on the roof.
Like with flat screen televisions, solar gives you more for less. It's a good deal.
More for less is also possible with Victoria's mandatory smart meters that enable households to match electricity use with cheaper prices. Energy retailers can even foresee localised grids.
Where you've got, say, a lot of solar in a street, it might be easier and cheaper to put a large battery at the end of the street, store the solar power during the day, and then release it in the evening when everyone's cooking dinner and watching television and demand is at its highest.
But in the state-owned grids of New South Wales and Queensland, consumers are likely to go on being slugged for a multi-billion-dollar mistake.
The average household's paying twice as much for their electricity now as they were 4 or 5 years ago, and that in turn is largely due to higher prices being paid for wires and poles.
We've just spent more than $50 billion upgrading networks, some of which may not be useful going forward, and they may end up being stranded assets.
Those left to pay for these grids may be driven off, causing what's known as a death spiral.
The more you raise the costs, then the more the demand shrinks.
Because people move to their solar PV or whatever.
People switch to other forms of technology. People are looking for off-network solutions, batteries, PV cells and so on.
And that's happening.
That is certainly happening.
Matt Peacock reporting.